Shalom Aleichem, my dear friends and my dear heroes. For those of you who are listening to the recording, I'm giving this share on the 2nd of August, which means that normal people are in camp, normal people are vacationing, normal people do not want to listen to rabbis in Yerushalayim or HaKadosh. But my heroes who are listening to me, thank you so much. It means so much to me, each and one of you. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, I will not disappoint you, because the shir that I'm about to give is based on a recording that I heard this year. I don't remember where I was driving across the Great Plains of the United States of America, but I was listening to shiurim that my friend Rav Pesach Siegel had sent me from Rav Moshe Shapira on Meseches Chelek, Meseches Sanhedrin, the 10th parak Chelek. He gave over shiurim about the sugya of Doeg and Achisophel on Sanhedrin Kuvav Amud Beis. And there he said over a yesod that literally I had to stop and hyperventilate and to breathe properly. It was so revealing in understanding what we're going through in our generation. It's going to take me a few steps to explain it, which is why I'm giving this shir over dafka in this forum over here in our Chabura, where I normally give over more advanced Torah, because I want to say something that's very, very, very important and relevant to our lives. But I want to begin by making just a little complaint to my fellow Torah Jews to stop using the phrase October 7th to talk about the war that's going on in Gaza. I understand why you're doing it, because the secular world has adopted October 7th as the name of the war, which honestly is far better than what the Israeli government originally wanted to call it. I can't remember the name, but it sounded like something out of Stalin's textbook, something like Iron Swords War. But the bottom line is, to call it October 7th is in a sense a kfira, and I use the word kfira deliberately, against everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu seems to be trying to do for us, trying to help us in showing us that what is happening in our days is unusual, it is extraordinary, and the roots of understanding it is in Shabbos Simchas Torah. It was a Shabbos, it was a Simchas Torah, and those two twin towers called Torah and Shabbos are a maramokum for us in how to deal with the incredibly bizarre, wonderful, frightening, crazy things that we're going through as we speak. I am this morning, I'm talking about here in Yerushalayim or HaKadosh. This morning, my wife and I are discussing how lucky we are that we are going to America Motzei Tisha B'Av with El, because our travel agent says, do not rely on United Airlines. And she was right, because United Airlines have canceled all their flights because of the threats that are coming from Iran. And the Pikuda Arif, which is the basically home front here in Israel, are telling people to stockpile on dry goods so that we can live in our houses for extended periods without leaving. So that's scary. That's a crazy world that we're living in. And you and I have to ask ourselves, as we always do, B'kamim alai mereim tishmana aznai. As Rabbi Yisrael Salanta said, when our enemies are raising their heads against us, tishmana aznai, let our ears hear. What is HaKadosh Baruch Hu trying to say to us? What is the message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to us? So I want to share with you this big idea and anchor it into current events. And the big idea really begins at the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of the beginning, which is the Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim that talks about the chait of the Eitz Hadaas, the chait of Adam and Chava. Before I begin, just a quick reminder that we are living in a world called Ikvasa de Mashiach. This is something that the Gemara uses to describe the Tkufa before Mashiach. It is the heels of the Melech HaMashiach. Every single chazal that talks about Ikvasa de Mashiach is happening in front of our eyes, and we're going to be focusing on one particular one, as you're going to see in a moment. But I do want to mention, like I've mentioned again and again, Rav Chaim Vital anchors Ikvasa de Mashiach with what he calls, in his words, Galus Yishmael. It's very, very important to remember that the Galus that we're in is Rav Chaim Vital in Sefer Eitz Hadaas Tov, in a parak, I think it was Kuf Mem Vav, in Tehillim. He describes our Tkufa as Galus Yishmael. He defines Galus Yishmael as being the climax of Galus Edom, meaning there are four Galus: the Galus of Bavel, the Galus of Parasamodai, the Galus of Yavan, and then the Galus of Edom. Edom is by far the longest, and each one of these four Galus has, so to speak, a climax. The climax of Galus Edom is called Galus Yishmael. So we are now living in the inside of Galus Yishmael. And we're going to see in a moment that Galus Yishmael is much more than the fact that when I get on a plane to come to America, I know that wherever I go across the fruited plains of America, I will be randomly chosen as someone from the Middle East, because the world is in a constant state of fear of Islamic terrorism. I'm going to show you that the Galus Yishmael has a much, much deeper idea going on behind the scenes. On previous occasions, I quoted you from Rav Moshe Shapira, my Rebbe. I actually have a memory of him teaching us this Rav Chaim Vital the very first time, going back maybe 30 years ago. Rav Chaim Vital, when he says over the words that this Galus, quote, is kashah mikulam, I remember my Rebbe Moshe Shapira, I remember his hands and his body was trembling. He said the words kashah mikulam, that we will be suffering more from Galus Yishmael than any other Galus. I remember that he was trembling when he said those words. Very scary thing. You see a Rebbe trembling about Galus Yishmael. What is he trembling about? He's not trembling about people dying, because l'chayra, it's not going to be like it was in the Holocaust. Hopefully, the Holocaust and the real bloodletting of Jewish people is something in our past. He did speak about Galus Yishmael, meaning that Galus Yishmael is so frightening because they use a weapon that belongs to us. The way that he taught it is that Klal Yisrael, their weapon is always tefillah, and Galus Yishmael is that we have an enemy that is kashah mikulam, because they also have the koyach of tefillah, as is echoed in their name, Galus Yishmael. Hashem should listen to our prayers. That's not what we're going to talk about this evening, because we've discussed this many times, the tremendous Galus that we have in where the enemy is formidable, that their koyach is in tefillah itself. I'm going to talk about something completely different. But to do that, let's begin at the very, very beginning of time. So I want to talk about something that looking at my audience over here, that Rav Ben and Rabbi T and Eitan, I know all of you, when I'm about to teach you now, David, Rav Michal, and all of you, I know that you have at some point learned the Moreh Nevuchim, the writings of the Rambam, where he explains what was the essential nature of the sin of Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, the great chait that sets the tone for all of history. But what I'm going to teach you is a new knach, something that was an eye-opener for myself when I heard it from Rav Moshe Shapira. It's going to change your perspective. What is the famous words of the Moreh Nevuchim about the nature of the chait of Adam and Chava, of the chait of Adam, the great sin that sets the tone for all of history? He starts off with a question. The Rambam starts off with a question. He says, it's not my question. People have asked me this question. And that is, how can it be that the Torah seems to testify that when Adam sinned with the Eitz Hadaas, he came out stronger and more powerful than he was beforehand? The pasuk says, you will eat from the tree of the Eitz Hadaas, and you will come out like God. Vayisake Elokim, right? Yodea das toiv v'ra. Your das will be opened up, and you will know Toiv and you will know Ra. It seems to be, says the Rambam, quoting the people that are asking this question, that by eating from the fruit, from the forbidden fruit, somehow on the other end, he comes out with his mind has been expanded and he's going to be Elohim, he's going to have somewhat godly powers. And indeed, we do know in Parshas Mishpatim and other places, human beings can be called Elohim, right? They have the power of Elohim, the power of justice, the power to choose between Tov and Ra. So it seems to be Chayta Niskar. You sin and you benefit. You did something bad, Adam. You did something bad, Chava. You come out on top. You come out more powerful than before. How can such a thing be? That's the famous question of the Rambam. How can it be that you went through this whole sin? You listened to the seduction of the Nachash, and where you come out in the end, you come out in a stronger position than you were beforehand. Zelo yitachen. That's something that cannot be. Says the Rambam, a big aside. And again, I know that at some point you've probably learned it. Rav Chaim Vital in Nefesh HaChaim goes through this Rambam. Perhaps more famously is Rav Dessler has an essay on this that every seminary and every yeshiva talks through the sin of Edom, and they talk about this Rav Dessler, and this is basically the big idea. Before the world of sin, in the original world of Gan Eden, the world was filled with two things, emes and sheker. The world was filled with total and complete truth and total and complete sheker. Sheker was something out of the realm of Bechira. It is not humanly possible. Adam is not capable of doing something that is sheker. It goes against human nature to do something that is sheker. Doing something that is sheker, I don't know if this is a good example, will be for one of us to go from 100 to 0, to go and take a huge dose of heroin, some crazy drug that we knew if you put this into your mouth, it is going to make you addicted to something and destroy your life completely and totally. No one is capable of having that bechira. We have bechira to do averis, but to do sheker that we know up front is sheker is outside the realm of our bechira. That was the world before the sin. Everything was emes and everything was sheker. The Rambam says the only Yetzer Hara that we had, the only tool that the Nachash had to be able to get to Adam and Chava, is that ability to give mitzias, to give reality to sheker. That was the only choice that we had, is to give reality to the world of sheker. And that's what we did. We gave reality to the world of sheker, says the Rambam, and we found ourselves at the other side of the looking glass, when no longer was the world emes and sheker. The world was now, in the words of the Rambam, toiv v'ra. So emes went down and just became toiv. Toiv is something that is good, like you have a good cup of coffee. Thank you, Reb Dave. Dave Rotenberg gave me this mug for you Harry Potter fans. Eitan, you should appreciate this. That is the world of Toiv, was once the world of emes, and sheker was reduced to the world of Ra. So sheker became Ra, and emes became Toiv. So this was the great Yerida of man. Man suddenly came into a world of Bechira, because you and I know that Toiv and Ra in reality are very often shades of gray. In other words, what happens is that I have over here my little phone where I get my WhatsApps from my students, and they ask me for advice about real life dilemmas. Those dilemmas, I just had one a few hours ago, are sometimes really complex, because one of them is Toiv, one of them is Ra, huge consequences between this choice and that choice, and it's not clear which way it is. It's not like emes and sheker where there's no free choice. Bechira between emes and sheker does not exist, but bechira between toiv and ra, you're in big trouble because you can choose Ra. You can enter into the marechet of Ra. It is possible to make bad choices. So this is what the catastrophe was of the sin of Edom. This is the way that the Rambam and the Moreh Nevuchim explains it. Rav Chaim Vital, Rav Dessler. Everything I've said till now is hopefully ideas that my dear friends have heard at some point in their career, in your career in studies. You've heard this idea before. But what I never heard until this year, and I heard this driving a car somewhere, probably, I think it was after Alami launch. I think Eitan, I may have seen you a few days beforehand, and I'm driving somewhere and I'm listening to the share, Perek Chelek, and I had this moment, this epiphany moment, when Rav Moshe broke down this Rambam and said that the effect of what the Nachash did to Edom, which means Adam and Chava, which means all of humanity all the way down to 2024, is broken down to two steps. It's something I never really thought about. These two steps are going to be crucial for you and I to understand what we're going through at this particular moment in history. Step number one is the central first step of sin, which is to create this world of sheker, where the world of sheker is seen just as something that is the world of possibility, that you can choose sheker. In other words, reducing sheker to Ra is step number one. Reducing sheker to just something, a bad thing to do, that is step number one. So step number one is, so to speak, plugging in to the world of sheker and making it something that is a possibility. Step number two is, once you've done that, you've actually unleashed the world of Ra. Beforehand, the world of Ra was sheker and you could not go near it. But after you have given metzias to the world of Ra, so then afterwards Ra becomes a choice and you can actually do bad things. So the first is called the sin of sheker. In other words, the pagam in the world of sheker, and the second is unleashing the world of Ra. Now, I'm just going to give you examples because at the moment now it's just like a little bit of an airy-fairy concept, but it's very, very important to understand. Giving sheker metzias is a catastrophe. Giving sheker power on its own is a catastrophe. The number one biggest result of that catastrophe is to unleash Ra into this world so that Ra can do terrible things. The guys in the share were asking Rav Moshe, give us an example of the first sin. So he said it's a joke, but it's not really a joke. He says, have you ever met a lawyer or have you ever met a politician? What is their job description? Is to give metzias to sheker. If you are a lawyer and your job is to defend someone that you know is a person who did something, a crime. So what do? You recreate the narrative of what he did so that his sheker is now something that can be swallowed and can be accepted and can be brought into a marechet of normal civilized behavior. It's basically the job description of every single politician. I'm going to show you that we're just scratching the surface of what the problem is all about. But that's the opening example that I'm giving you. A much more frightening example that he gave is the difference between what's happened the last 100 years, is the difference between communism and capitalism. I'm a little bit older than everyone. I was born in 1961, which means that as a teenager, when my mind is open to the world of politics, I grew up in the real politics, that's real politics spelled with a K, of East and West tension between the world of communism and the world of capitalism. In those days, it was the Soviet Union versus the United States of America. The world had two superpowers. One was built on the beliefs of Karl Marx and Lenin, Stalin, and Trotsky, and that was communism, and the other was built on capitalism, on I'm just going to say it in a negative way, but just get to the point, is the belief in the power of money, the power of the force of the economy. That was basically what the fuel of the American dream is. It's all based around money. And with money, you have all the power that comes with it. Said Rav Moshe is that communism was sheker and capitalism was ra. What is the difference between sheker and ra on a practical level? So he explained the difference is how you defeat it. When you're dealing with sheker, sheker is something that if you can expose it to be sheker, if you can show the whole world this is sheker, it ceases to exist like that. It does not need hard work to reduce it from 100 to 0. It basically self-implodes and shows itself to be sheker. When you're dealing with Ra, Ra is a journey. Ra is something that takes armies, so to speak, whether it's an intellectual army or physical armies, that slowly but surely you chip it away until eventually you destroy it. I'm going to, because I'm just looking at the audience over here, a lot of you have heard me for many years. I'm going to translate what I just said in the language of Cabalistic language. When I say Kabbalah, this is not Kabbalah, but this is Kabbalah that so many people talk about these ideas. It's already, I don't feel lack of comfort discussing these things in public. But some of you are aware that of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, brings himself down into this world, and he runs this world using this thing called spheros. So spheros are, some of you are aware, this 10 spheros are broken down into 3 and 7. We're not going to discuss this today and how it works. It's very much connected to the 3 weeks, and then the 7 weeks of comfort is also the 3 and the 7 correspond to the 10 spheros. What you do need to know is that at the end of the spheres, we get to the last sphere. It's called Malchus, Yesod, and then Malchus, which is how Kadosh Baruch Hu reveals his Malchus to that world. But before that, there are 2 spheres called Netzach and Hod. I don't feel embarrassed talking about these things because Art Scroll talks about this when we talk about Spheres Omer, and every single Shabbos, when you go to shul and they give out these little alanim, they talk about these things during the 7 days of Sukkot with the Ashpizim. There's Netzach and there's Hod, which is Moshe and Aaron, as some of you may know. But Netzach and Hod, some of you may know about Netzach and Hod in the famous picture of Rav Moshe Shapira, the Ramak, that they correspond to the 2 feet of man. Okay, so you have over here, my hands are Chesed and Gvura, and my body is Tiferes. Okay, then you have a thing called Netzach and Hod, the right and the left foot. Have you ever thought about the difference between the 2 words, Netzach, which comes from the word Nitzachon, and Hod, which comes from the word Hudah? Netzach and Hod are exactly the 2 different ways that you defeat the 2 different forms of evil. When it comes to sheker, sheker self-implodes and shows itself to be evil in a flash. All it has to do is what's called Hudah. The word Hudah literally means that the evil says, I'm evil. In other words, the evil admits that it has absolutely nothing. It self-exposes itself to be something without anything at all. There's nothing there all along. If you come along and you say to someone, you owe me $100, and that person says, Hodah, yes, I owe you, you're not going to Beis Din. There's nothing to discuss. There's no tension between the 2 of you. He's giving you a Hodah. If you go into a boxing ring and your opponent comes in, takes one look at you and says, I'm not fighting you. You're obviously stronger than me. That's a Hodah. The battle is over. It's finished. There's a Hodah. You've gone from 100 to 0 in one go. That's what happened to communism. I don't know if you can understand this. For you, it's the history books. I lived this. Oh, you're an old man. Okay, I lived this thing over here. Communism, the beginning of the 70s, right? It was like so powerful, and they were taking over Africa, and they were in Cuba, and they were in Vietnam, and it was the corners of the world, and it was just the tentacles were growing, and it was the great, great enemy called communism, and they were selling something that was intrinsically sheker. They had nothing to offer. It was an idea that from the very, very moment of go, did not work. Did not work. Not for one day did it ever work. Not for one moment did it ever have any mitzvahs. How did it end? In the early 90s, nothing. Like just overnight, the tanks rolled through Moscow and East Berlin and stuff like that. And women and children stood in front of them, and they just said, oh, we can't do anything. And then overnight, communism ceased to be a thing. Just overnight, just disappeared from 100 to 0. It's not happening with the power of capitalism. The power of capitalism will not just cease to exist, and the whole world will wake up one day and says, no, 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 we accept. Let's just focus on Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. No, it's Ra, okay? The evil of the way that Western civilization is built is based on a Ra that sits intrinsically into the fabric of society, and it's a war, and it's an ongoing war between Toiv, which is Klal Yisrael, and Ra, which is the minions of capitalism and the way that they run their world. That is the difference between Netzach and Hod. That is the difference between the right foot and the left foot. I will admit to you the following thing, is that the 2 feet are different from the 2 hands, right? The 2 hands can work independently. If God forbid someone has 1 hand, they can still do a lot of things with 1 hand. But if you only have 1 foot, without technology to help you, you can't do anything. The 2 feet have to work together. So Ra and sheker do have a lot of overlap. And all of this is very, very, very important for what I am about to teach you, because now it is drum roll time. Okay, everything I've done for the last half hour, and everyone's asking themselves, where is he going with this, is about to be revealed in the next 60 seconds. And that is the following. The same Rambam that we spoke about in the Moreh Nevuchim that explains the original Chet of Edom and how it bears out until the end of time. The same Rambam in his Igeres Taimon, his famous Igeres Taimon, gives a new label to the world of sheker and a new label to the world of Ra. And this is reflected in Chazals and other Svarim, and it needs to be thought through. And that is that sheker is Yishmael and that Ra is Esau. This is where I've been trying to build a share. This is where I'm hoping some of you are having that aha moment. Okay, Yishmael is sheker in this world, and Esau is the Ra in this world. Now, obviously, historically, this can be seen instantly. Yishmael is introduced to us in Parshas Vayera, and the first thing that we see him doing is he's pretending to be shooting at animals with his arrows, but really he's trying to kill Yitzchak. So his first act of aggression is done through the vehicles of sheker. Rashi brings this down. I have the Maramokom in front of me, which is not really helping me out because I can't read my writing without my reading glasses. But the bottom line there, it's right over there. And what I wanted to share with you is that Esau, when we're introduced to Esau, from day one, he is this aggressive hater of Yaakov Avinu. From day one, Esau comes with his 400 armies to go and destroy the Yaakov Avinu and the 12 tribes. That's Esau from day one. He's the Ra in this world, and he's proud of it. So you see the sheker and the Ra from day one. Yes, I know there's overlap, but it's always like that. The sheker comes first, Yishmael comes first, and opens up the power of Ra. Ra cannot exist in the world where there's only emes and sheker. But if sheker can give mitzias to the world of Ra, in other words, what sheker is, Yishmael can give the world of falsehood, can give it a sense of reality that this thing exists, then afterwards Ra can take over and unleash as much evil as it could possibly want. I know what you're all thinking, okay? Your minds are working fast, and you're trying to, 1 second, so Eitan, Stop asking good questions. Amalek is a fusion of sheker and ra. Amalek comes from the combination of Esau and Yishmael, and we are not going to discuss this now because it's just going to take us in a loop. We're not going to explain all the many questions that are going to come up now. So the simplest example that probably crosses your mind is what you read in the newspapers today. So I follow the BBC. It is a sickness that I have. I grew up in England and I'm addicted to the BBC. What can I tell you? I love the BBC. I still am a follower of, I don't know, technically speaking, I'm a Manchester United fan on a purely technical level. I can't help it. Girsa Diankusa. I always go to the BBC, then I do like very quickly Fox and CNN and divide by 2, and then I go, whatever it is. It's difficult. It's difficult trying to find out what's going on in this world. The BBC, when they talk about the GAZA Health Ministry, I don't know why, every time I hear the phrase GAZA Health Ministry, it makes me smile. It just sounds so funny because when you think of the GAZA Health Ministry, you sort of think of these guys wearing like a tie, right? These things like that. These are all academics that have been studied in like Stanford or Oxford and Cambridge, and they are experts in the world of health and the world of statistics, and they have these whatever it is, these computer things. You and I know exactly what the GAZA Health Ministry looks like, in some dungeon that really should belong to lizards and rabbits and stuff like that. They come out of these little holes and they make up these numbers. But the BBC, who represents the Ra in this world, will take the sheker of Yishmael and give it Metzias. It's an incredible thing. So today, the majority of the world, the overwhelming majority of the world, will sooner listen to a statistic of the sheker of the GAZA Health Ministry than the Israeli statistics that are given out from our commanders and our beloved soldiers. So whatever it is, it's a lost cause, because when sheker has Metzias, then Ra can take over, and that is the tziruf of Esau and Yishmael that has been predicted at the end of days. That was first be like, okay, that's the perfect example. Wrong. What I'm saying to you now is a distraction. The fact that politics is run on this chibur between sheker and Ra is a distraction to what it means that we are in Galus Yishmael. What it means that we are in Galus is something much deeper and something that reaches the fabric of our society on the deepest and deepest level, and that's what I really want to talk about. I want you to replace the word sheker in your mind with the word dimyon. The word dimyon means the imagination. Real sheker is when imaginary worlds become the new reality. This is something that goes back to the technique that the Nachash used to unleash what he did into this world. He created for Chava first, and then Adam Rishon, imaginary world, and Adam and Chava stepped into this imaginary world, and that became the new reality. All of sheker is rooted in the distortion of dimyon, where you go into a world of dimyon, you cease to use it as a tool to get to MS, which is the way that dimyon should be, but instead, as Rabbi Yisrael Salanta said, Oy lanu la'oyev hara halazeh, this great enemy called the dimyon becomes a tool of sheker by replacing the world of reality with the imaginary worlds that we live in. And if you follow me through what I'm about to tell you now, I'm about to take you into a horror movie. But this horror movie, unfortunately, is a real movie that's happening to you and me right now. So the Gemara in the end of Sotah describes Ikras de Mashiach, the world of Mashiach. Before Mashiach comes, the world will be V'ha'emes tia nederes. Emes disappears. The whole world is sheker. So I want to ask you, what does it mean that the whole world has become sheker? So once again, you think about politics. For some reason, I also found this amusing. Washington Post had what's called a fact-checking unit. And they found, this is a quote, that during the Trump presidency, there were altogether 30,000 untruths that they discovered during the Trump presidency. Now, I don't think the Washington Post is objective. Let's say it's half that amount. But we all know that if President Trump, ex-President Trump's future, whatever it's going to be, when he says something, maybe it's MS, maybe it's sheker. We don't know. We have no idea of what comes out of his mouth, if it's true or it's not true. The same thing with politics on the other side of the, on the Democrat side. We don't know if anything is true or anything. We don't know anything. The whole thing is spin. We don't actually know what's going on over here. That's not the point that needs to be made now. The point is that we don't care. The point is what has changed in the last generation is the trivialization of sheker to the point that it no longer becomes an issue for us because we have bought into sheker in such a deep and powerful way that it's become our own oxygen, our own way of living. What's my proof? My proof is what's happening to me and you right now. You're watching me on the internet. You're watching me. I don't know how good your connection is, but I'm willing to bet that some of you are thinking subconsciously, I'm looking at Menachem Nissel. You're not looking at Menachem Nissel. Your imagination is telling you that you're looking at Menachem Nissel because of the extreme genius of technology. Actually, you're looking at a piece of stone, whatever it is that technology is. The computer is made out of stone, silicon, whatever it is, okay? But you look at it and you know purely intellectually that technology has become so good that you can actually see, number one, color, and number two, you can see it in real time. There's only a few seconds. It says over here, in Israel, it's 6:41, okay? You can see, by you, it's 11:41, whatever it is, you can see almost instantly. So it makes you feel that it's real, but it's not. There's many, many steps. You're actually looking at, you could be looking at the wall and everything else could be happening in your imagination. Yes, I'm teaching you Torah. Yes, there's a lot of things that are good that is happening at the moment now. We're using this vehicle called the internet to learn Torah together, people from all over the world. But the actual buying in to something that uses Dimion and turning that Dimion and saying, this is the true reality, that is you and I buying into the world of sheker. I'm telling you now that even, for myself, I can teach this 101 times, but if I'm FaceTiming, well, I don't FaceTime so much, but let's say my wife every day FaceTimes her father in Baltimore. My shver is 90 years old. And my wife says to me, Dad, you don't look good, all right? Call the doctor. And so in her mind, she's talking to her father. She's not. She's talking to her phone. And everything else is technology. But our brain buys in and it's so hard for us to accept. But that's the reality because sheker has become the new reality. I'll give you other examples. It happens to be, you guys don't care, but a lot of the planet is watching the Paris Olympics as we speak. There's something incredible how the Olympics began in Greece. Greece were the first people really to promote sheker into the fabric of society. But when you think about it, organized sports is really very recent. All your great, if you think about all your American sports teams, they're all 100 years old. The Olympics that we see today, it's all about 100 years old. I don't know the exact statistics when Olympics became a big thing, but it's all about between 100 and 150 years old. What is sports? Sports, basically, when there's a really big game, when you have the Super Bowl or the World Cup final, the world comes to a stand, wars come to an end, and you're watching something that is intrinsically sheker, but no one thinks that way. Because you and I have been brainwashed by the world of sheker that when somebody scores a goal, something actually happens. Or somebody puts a ball in a hoop, or somebody runs round the track 800 meters so fast, they get back to exactly where they have started. It's not like they caught a bus or something. It's not like they're helping a little old lady cross the road. and we say, wow, he or she went so fast. This is crazy. They deserve to get a gold medal, and the one that came second has to listen to his or her annoying national anthem, and everyone says, wow, this is amazing, and the medal table, and everything is happening in the world of Dimion. Because in reality, it's just adult men in shorts running. That's what they're doing. Okay, this is nothing real. It's we've decided to say that if they run fast, that something is happening. They jump high, something has happened. But it's just what it is. Americans have an even weirder thing called American football, where they actually appear in public, grown-up men with stretchy pants and shoulder pads, and they crash into each other, and people take this very seriously. This is like crazy how the whole world buys into sheker, and that becomes the new reality. It doesn't stop there, because you and I know the statistics have skyrocketed over the last couple of years, where people will spend maybe most of their day looking at screens, either computer screens or their phones. People will spend 1/3 of their lives by the time they die looking at screens. And when they look at the screens, that will be the most important part of their days. What do you do when you look at a screen? You're entering into Dimion, and you're turning that Dimion into reality. It comes to the point where the people on the screen become the most powerful people in the world. I don't know how this happens, but American politics, America is the most powerful country in the world. We're not discussing now about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's British humor to that America, the most incredible nation that the world has ever seen. These are the leaders that they come up with. Let's forget that for a moment. Just the very fact is who is the one that is writing the narrative, who are the what they call influencers. It's athletes and entertainers. What are these people? These people ride on the world of Dimion, things that don't exist. So if you're an entertainer, if you are a world-class actor or actress, what is your strength? You happen to have a strength that you know how to act out whatever it is, your character better than anybody else. But your skill is certainly not more useful than a dentist. Okay, a dentist objectively is doing much more to make the world a better place than an entertainer. But no one cares about the dentist's opinion. The only person that you want to know about is what is this, who is who just fronted for Kamala Harris, Megan Thee Stallion. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I actually know that information. Thank you, Fox News. So it's these people, suddenly what they have to say becomes a reality. These people are only important because the world of Dimion has built them up and made them into somebody important. Again, you have the world of youth, which is the future of the world. Their form, the way that they think and the way that their worldview is from what they see on screens and the influences that they look up to. Anyone who has a camera, which I have in front of me, can become an influencer. I can, if I knew how to dance in a certain way, especially if I was pretty and female, I could get millions of people to watch me make a few moves. I'll never forget when I was inducted, it was the Southern Region Shabbaton, and a bunch of Israeli boys and girls decided that they wanted to make Menachem Nissel viral on TikTok. And luckily, where are you? I think is Eli Loeb with me? Luckily, I had Eli Loeb with me, who dances almost as badly as I do. So I didn't look that stupid. But the point is that, yeah, and then thousands of people watched it. This is insane. This is insane. I was just doing like a few moves like that, and everyone's watching me. How does that happen? I have over here something, I don't know why I found this so entertaining. A few years ago, there was a huge entertainer on the internet, an influencer. Her name was Little Michaela. Lil, that's the first name. This is her nickname. Michaela is Miquela. I don't know, Ben, did you ever hear of Little Michaela? You ever heard of Little Michaela? She had millions of followers. And she was 19 years old, living in California, of Brazilian American origin. She used to go to Coachella, and her fashion clothing that she promoted, people would buy. and she made music videos. I just checked up. One of them, 7 million people watched one of her videos. And that's it. She wrote songs. She designed her own fashion. And then one day she announced that she was fake, that she was a CGI creation, probably some brilliant kid in, I don't know, in South Korea created her. And that's it. That she did not exist at all. So you would think that this was a major, major catastrophe. Everyone would stop following her. But no, her fans said, okay, we don't really care. And this is an interesting discussion at that time then. Who cares if she's real or not? Because at the end of the day, the real human influences are also fake. Because we know that what they put onto their TikTok or their Insta or whatever it may be, that there's 100 versions that did not work out, and this is the one that they're promoting. And we don't know what their real world is all about. Every so often we find out. Some of you may remember the fiasco when the breakdown of the marriage of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Oh my gosh, how entertaining was that to see the real world of what actually happens to these people that everyone idolizes. You get to see them in real life, and you see that they have the mentality of your 6-year-old little child on a tantrum. Is what it is. These people are toxic and crazy and unhappy and pathetic, but then afterwards everything goes back to this fake imaginary world. This is Yishmael. This is Yishmael. Yishmael gave us a world of sheker that has now become the fabric of our lives. It's the oxygen of not just politics, but every single product that you ever buy. Without sheker, you can't buy it. The whole automobile industry works on sheker. So does if you don't, I can't explain myself because I'm running out of time, but if you want to sell a car and you want to make money out of selling a car, you have to come out with imaginary needs so that you can have your workers in Detroit designing upgrades so that people will buy your latest model, or else you're just going to go bankrupt. So you need sheker, because at the end of the day, a car is just a thing to take you from place A to B. And you'd like to have a little safety and air conditioning, but everything else that you have is all this mareket of sheker to get you to buy in. So let me now get to the Musa part of my class. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to say. Today, for the first time, I went on the internet, so please do not judge me. And I put into Wiki the words deep fake. I always knew this thing existed, but I put it in, and just humanity is falling into, this is Wikipedia, into an age when it can no longer be determined whether a medium content corresponds to truth. We are approaching a moment where people will dismiss real events as fake because they're so used to the fact that everything is deep fake. Now, I don't even know, this is all new to me. I saw a video of King Yong, whatever it is, the president of North Korea, a deep fake video of it. It was actually hilarious. And I just thinking, oh my gosh, now I understand what's going on, because I work in a Beis Yaakov, and I gave a final at the end of the year, and it was a take-home final, and I realized that everyone was giving the same wrong answers, and somebody tipped me off that they had used AI. You put in Menachem Nissel, how should he, what does he want for this thing? And then they're copying off each other. And I said, should I call them out on it? I said, no, because this is now their culture. This is what they do. And there's no point me ending the year accusing them of plagiarizing whatever AI does. It's a scary world we live in. But this is happening in our Beis Yaakovs, that they're buying into this deep fake. Now I want to get to my point, because I want to end up with chizuk. I want to end up with what I think that we need to be working on. What was the purpose of today's presentation? Yishmael is a lot of things. Yishmael and Esau, as they are work against them, have a lot of things. I mentioned Yishmael as the kashah of tefillah. Yishmael is called Klal Yisrael's oyev. Esau is called the saint. There's a lot of things. But what I want to focus on is that we are living at the end of history, where we are told that before Mashiach comes and there's an explosion of emes, and sheker will disappear, and we will go back into that world of clarity of Adam and Chava before the Chait. Before that, sheker will become the fabric of the world on the deepest level. This is something that comes from Yishmael, and this is something that we're seeing in front of our eyes. So what are we supposed to do about it? The first thing you have to recognize is that we're very limited in what to do to fight it. Rav Moshe Shapira quoted the same Rambam in the Meir Nevuchim, in Igeres Teman. Do not say this to your students in NTSY, because it's just going to confuse them. But the Rambam says you cannot fight sheker. It's too powerful, it's too strong. You cannot fight Yishmael with information and facts, because it's the wrong currency. If you are sheker, then information and facts is no longer relevant. This is the Rambam said this 1,000 years ago. He quoted a pasuk. You're going to love this. He quoted a pasuk. It's a pasuk in the end of Parshas Chayesara that talks about Yishmael's family, and three of them are called. This is, I think, the shortest pasuk in the Torah. Mishma, Duma, Umasa. Those are their three names. Mishma, Duma, and Masa. Says the Rambam. Mishma, when you're dealing with Yishmael, Mishma, listen to what they say. Duma comes the word daimim, keep your mouth shut. Umasa, and what comes the word, and be sevel, the pain. That's what he says, because you're not going to win. Let me translate it to you. Israel advocacy, which I'm a big fan of, for one reason only, because our teens need to know the information. Jewish kids, NTSYs, need to know this stuff. But to be able to change the way that what Bibi Netanyahu called the useful idiots of Iran on the college campuses, to change the way they think, will not work. It will not work. The Rambam has been telling us 1,000 years ago that when the world is filled with the sheker of Yishmael, you speaking emes is going to be irrelevant. So who can you help? First of all, for yourselves. But secondly, and here, this is the point I want to make. This is the chizuk I want to make, especially now that we come into the most dangerous period of the Jewish calendar called the 9 days. What you and I need to do, almost with a sense of paranoia, almost with a sense of we need to do this with every bit of kashah that we can, is to anchor ourselves into the world of emes as much as possible. And I'm going to use, if everyone could just for the next few minutes, switch off your, so I can't, I think there's interference going on, okay? Listen very carefully. When did HaKadosh Baruch Hu begin this war for us? On Shabbos, Simchas Torah. Shabbos and Torah are two anchors of emes that we should not forget. Let's start off with Shabbos. Tonight for me, tomorrow night for you people, we're going to enter into Shabbos. The Zohar calls Shabbos Sahadusa Dikshait, the testimony of truth. When you light your candle, your wife lights the candles, or you light the candles, you go to shulchan, you come home, the internet is off. The 6 days of the week is off. The news is off. You enter into a world, and all you're left with is Shabbos mirrors, saying over the parsha, enjoying good food, which is real. This is enjoying the company of real human beings that you can poke, right? Your friends and your family around a Shabbos table. Shabbos has never been so beautiful as it is in Galus Yishmael, as you have entered into a world that is kulei sheker. For 24 hours, you enter the world where all you can breathe is emes. So the war began on Shabbos to remind us to mechazik Shabbos as a 24-hour timeout from the sheker of Yishmael. And that's the way it is. Baruch Hashem, for us Torah Jews, the news and everything is disappearing. And the last point I want to make to you is that this is the world of Simchas Torah. Torah is the other great emes. And we see that in my lifetime, I don't remember Torah being so much on the attack as it is now. I'm trying to explain to people that want to listen to me that there's no contradiction to love and adore and support our Israeli soldiers with all our strength and all our might, at the same time to recognize that the engine of what makes us successful on the front, on the wall front, and everything else we do is our yeshivas. And we need to mechazik ourselves, and first of all, financially, to give tzedakah to the yeshivas as much as we can, to allow them to flourish, but to recognize that they are kihem chayenu v'erech hemenu, that the Torah is the world of emes, which is the only true weapon that Yishmael doesn't have. The kol Yaakov, the kol is the kol of tefillah. Yishmael also has their own kol anashir, but the kol of Torah they don't have. Esau doesn't have. That is the one weapon that is pure emes, that has not changed since before the Ched of Edom and Chava. The Shaykh is the world of Torah, the world of the yeshivas, and allowing them to unleash the emes into a world that's kulei sheker. That's the other weapon that we have, and that's why I believe the war began on Shabbos, Simchas Torah, that part of Torah that is filled with simcha, the joy of exiting Galus Yishmael and entering into the safe haven of emes that both Shabbos and Torah ends up with. I want to finish off and just to share with you, Netzach and Hod, we mentioned beforehand, right? The Nitzachon against Ra is this ongoing battle, and the Nitzachon of a Hod is Hod will self-implode. So just want to read to you from the davening. We're going to soon be at the Yom Noraim. And in the davening, we say to Kadosh Baruch Hu, we ask the Kadosh Baruch Hu the following thing, and I quote, here we go. V'yikablu kulam es ol malchusecha. We say similarly in Aleinu. V'yikablu kulam es ol malchusecha. What does that mean? That's Hod. That's when sheker implodes. And all the nations of the world should say, I don't know what we were thinking. This whole thing that we were promoting was sheker. Then we have a simlei chalem. Simlei chalem means bechazacha. That's netzach. And then you have everything. So netzach and hod comes down to Yesod and Malchus, to the world of Malchus, of the Malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I'm asking every single one of you and to spread the word that in a world where we're drowning in sheker on every single level and every single fabric of our society, when we live in such a world, hold on desperately. Do not fight Yishmael. It's not going to work. I mean, you fight them physically, but not their value system of sheker. It's not going to work. But hold on tight to the world of emes. Shabbos Simchas Torah. Stop calling October 7th. Call it Shabbos of Simchas Torah, because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us how to survive this. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, at the other end, the Melech Mashiach is going to come and unleash like an explosion, Oz Tzibaka Kashah Erecha, this beautiful world of emes, and the whole world will be Makabel B'Haidah, as the Kadosh Baruch Hu's Melucha will reign with pure emes across every corner of the world. With the coming of Mashiach, we should all be zeichet to see it meher v'yameinu. A good Shabbos, a good Chodesh, and Hatzlacha Rabbah for all of us in our holy endeavors to hold on to this world of emes. Thank you so much for listening.
Shabbos.
Shabbos, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Rabbi, I thought you might appreciate that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the origin of the Michelin Guide.
Of the one of the Michelin Guide.
Allegedly, they say, it's very interesting what you were saying. It fits in that Michelin wasn't